And hello, it's Adaire Palmer here, hiding behind Theonie Roussianos' face. Theonie, I don't know if you can tell this, but you're actually on the screen by yourself. Hang on, let me change that. This is what you call live TV.
I was wondering why you were talking straight away.
That's so funny. I'm going, yeah, we're all set. Theonie and I were having now I'm on the screen by myself, and Theonie, I've just popped you in the background for a moment while I introduce you. Theonie and I are so used to doing shows together now. We're like work wives, seriously. I love it because we just are so natural. We've got each other's back, and now I'm going to interview Theonie today because it is community TV with Adaire, and I wanted to talk to Theonie to share her story about her journey with a husband that has an ultra rare chronic illness. Now,
is that the husband?
Adaire Palmer. That's the husband we're talking about. Now, we're each other's work wife. You're still off screen. Shh. Or I'll have to drop you down into the lobby. She's going like this. She doesn't know you can't see her. That's so funny. Let me introduce Theonie first. This is community TV with Adaire. It's TV for you, my TV for me. This is ordinary people bringing you extraordinary things that will add value to the lives of people around you. Today we are speaking with Theonie Roussianos, who has a husband called Jerry. That's not his work wife or anything else. He's a real Richie Ditch husband who has an ultra rare life-threatening disease. Now, Theonie is an amazing lady because you can see I'm just actually sharing the screen now. So you are on screen now, Theonie, and you are still smiling about all the ups and downs that your family and you have gone through in the last couple of years. You are still smiling, and I think that's amazing. Not just still smiling, you are doing stuff to help move forward the progression of research that's going to help your husband in the long run. Say hi.
Hi, everybody. Good to see you, not here. Wish I could see you all.
It's good to be here. And Tracy is saying hello again.
Hi, Tracy and Sarah. Hi, Sarah.
And Sarah ended up in the last page. I'm just actually going to, first, before we get into this, I'm just going to show you this because I'm having too much fun with this, and I'm having too much fun learning out loud with it, which is hilarious because I think I've got a reasonable amount of miles under my belt when it comes to Be Live TV, and I can still cock it up. But and Sarah is going. Is it Sarah or Sarah? Hi, Sarah.
Sarah.
Not sure how she ended up on the last page, which was inside the green room. So you've clicked the guest link. If you do want to come in and say hi to Theonie and myself, if you want to have a conversation about the topic today, you're welcome to jump into the green room if we can by clicking the guest link. It is above. If you want to, then we have time. We'll have a conversation for sure. I just don't know, Theonie, you can't see this, but I've actually done a little explosion up here, and it says tap here. Now, if I go like this, hang on, if I go like this, and those of you who are watching, I'm not quite sure what it looks like on your mobile, but on my preview screen, it actually would say tap on my forehead, right on my forehead. Tap on my forehead. I've done that because I've gone, if you and I'm just playing around with some frames, but if you want to get notifications for when we go live on My Time TV, you can just tap up there on the top right-hand corner, and it will give you a notification that we are going live. So ask to get notifications. Tap here. Theonie, wow, your story.
Yeah,
let's start at the beginning. I'm just going to see if I can get some photos up. The first one should be your wedding trip, your wedding cake.
Way back then.
Let's see.
That was such a long time ago. So we
Well,
actually, yeah, maybe not that screenshot.
no. I am going to put you solo. You can actually, I'm going to put you solo while I work this out, okay?
No problem. So we actually, Jerry and I, so if you're going to show the wedding photo, we got married on the 1st of January 2000, which was actually Jerry's 24th birthday. So he can't forget the anniversary and all that stuff. No excuses. And he can't forget how many years it's been, being 2000. All he has to remember is what year we're currently in.
So you're making it as easy as possible for him, aren't you?
I totally, no excuses. Anyway, so,
no excuses whatsoever.
Just as everybody, whatever, the natural progression which most people take, you have kids or you don't have kids, whatever. We moved on, we had a couple of boys, and fast forward to what today's about. 2 years ago, almost to the day, so back on the 1st of January 2016, we celebrated Jerry's 40th birthday. He'd been unwell. But we didn't know why. We were at the doctor's at the point, but still waiting on results and things. And then on the 5th, I think it was the 5th of January, we had to call a locum out to come and see him because he was just in so much pain that he couldn't keep anything down. He was just throwing up, and that was from the pain that he was suffering. So we called a locum out to check him out because we're thinking, it's just a really bad gastro or something, who knew. But he told us the locum had a feel around, could feel something, but didn't know what it was. So sent us up to hospital. So we did, took him up to hospital. And on admission, we weren't there very long. They diagnosed him with pancreatitis first up, which explained the level of pain he was in and the site of the pain and all that kind of thing. I've not suffered pancreatitis. I've spoken to a few people who have, and they've said that it's the worst pain that they've ever experienced. And this is people who've been through natural drug-free childbirths and all that kind of stuff. They've said pancreatitis is the worst thing that they've ever experienced. And so then they had to go through and see, as they do, they work out why this is all happening. Okay, why have you got the pancreatitis? Why is this? So they ran a series of blood tests, and they found that his kidneys weren't functioning as well as they should have either. So then we had to go through a whole heap of other testing and find out. And it was 2 days after he was admitted, 2 or 3 days after his admission. We thought we'd be there overnight and they'd send him back home, give him some pain relief, and off we go. But 2 days after he was admitted, he was diagnosed with atypical hemolytic uremic syndrome, or AHUS for short. And if you're sitting there thinking, what the hell does that even mean? That's what we thought at the time as well. So we didn't actually realise how serious it was. He wasn't really well enough to care what it even meant. He just knew that he felt like crap, basically, and wanted to get out of hospital, which he did 28 days later.
Wow, 28 days. So that's a long stint, isn't it, in hospital? Yeah, so that was 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And I guess for you, because I'm interested in, being on part of this journey with you, has been and to seeing how you managed to keep yourself under the circumstances well and happy, and keep your family functioning as normally as you can. I know I've got a photo here that I want to share because I've just figured out how to do it. Because I think the impact on your family has probably been something that I don't know. No, it's not wanting to play. It was just up there for a brief moment. So the photos are out for now. But there was a photo there of Jerry playing soccer. So, and you had some great photos there I would have loved to have shared around, sort of the family stuff that you did with your 2 young boys, and then 2 years ago the whole landscape just changed for you.
Yeah.
And
so you brought up soccer. Sorry, go.
Yeah.
You.
Yeah. No, I was just going to say just some around the stuff that you're doing to keep yourself, and I know you're actually going to write about it at some point, but I think you can talk about the soccer, but also interested in the sorts of things that you were doing to keep yourself from I think I see a lot of people who go into the poor me, helpless victim type And I've never been there, so I don't know, but I just have a huge admiration for what you're doing and the way you're choosing to approach this as life is thrown at you. So just talk a little bit about the soccer if you want, and then we can have a chat about that.
What I was going to say about that is soccer, this is how the disease affects the family. So soccer was a huge part of Jerry's life before his diagnosis, so he hasn't been able to play since. So going to he'd go watch our youngest play. He'd watch Christos play on the weekends. He was playing himself, training a couple of nights a week, all that kind of thing. He hasn't been able to do any of that in a couple of years, which is, you know, you've taken away something someone loves as well. It's not just that they feel sick, it's that it changes everything about their normal existence. And same with anyone with any kind of chronic condition. I think there are a lot of people who suffer with, like you're saying, they suffer with chronic diseases, and then it's where do you go from here? And when we're fortunate at the moment, Jerry's doing really well now, post New Year's. But before that,
what happened to you?
Okay, so we'll fast forward. We'll rewind to fast forward what we said before. So 4 months ago, Jerry had a seizure, and we had no idea what caused it, how he'd not had seizures before. The disease can affect the brain, so we didn't know whether the seizures were related to the disease or whether there was something completely separate. He also suffers with he hasn't suffered with it for a while now, but at the time he was suffering with severe gastric reflux as well. So they came to the conclusion that it was from severe loss of electrolytes that was caused the seizure. So he spent a few days in hospital and whatever, and we came home and everything was okay. And then 4 months later, so bringing us to the 24th of December, just gone, we were getting ready to travel to Broken Hill to visit my family for Christmas, and he had a seizure that morning in his sleep. So he'd crashed out. I had my work Christmas function the night before, so he was asleep by the time I got home. And Christos and he had crashed out in Grumpus Room watching a movie on TV. When I got home, they were out to it, so I thought, I'm not going to wake him up because he probably won't get back to sleep, and we wanted to hit the road early, so I just left them there. And 5:30 in the morning, Christos came running into my bedroom saying, Mum, Dad's making some noises, and there was blood coming out of his mouth. He thought he'd hurt his dad because Jerry does often talk in his sleep, and it's just a matter of, Jerry, shut up, and it stops. So Christos is calling out, Dad, stop, Dad, shut up, but he obviously wasn't, because he wasn't talking in his sleep. It was just the noises he was making while he was having his seizure. So he threw a thong at him, thinking it'll wake him up. He turned around and saw he'd bitten his tongue, so there was blood coming out of his mouth, but the poor kid thought that he hurt his dad. So he came running out. I mean, I laugh now, but at the time, obviously, I wasn't. He's 10. He'll be 11 in March.
So that's a pretty scary thing for a 10-year-old.
Yeah, so he was 8. Yeah. So he was 8. The boys were 8 and 10 when Jerry was first diagnosed. So they've had to go through all of this stuff at a pretty young age. Yeah. So he had to call an ambulance again, and freaking out with the post-seizure stuff, as a all confused state and all that kind of thing. Got him into hospital. He doesn't remember anything. He doesn't remember having the seizure, anything before the seizure, because it happened while he was sleeping. He doesn't remember any of that. He remembers vaguely bits of being inside the ambulance, and then getting to hospital. He doesn't remember a lot from being in the emergency room. As I mentioned, a few things that happened down there, and he doesn't recall any of that. Just a few little bits and pieces come to him, but he was out to it. It's after a seizure. The patient's quite exhausted. It takes a lot out of them. So he was then admitted to the ward. So he went up to the ward, and once he was settled, I went home to pick up some things because he was being admitted. So I went home to get clothes and toiletries, all that kind of stuff for him. And in the time that I'd gone home and come back, he got up to go to the toilet, and he had another seizure. But he didn't come out of that one completely. By the time I got back to hospital, he was in a neck brace, and all that was horrible to watch. But that was because he'd had a fall and he'd hit his head. It was just precautionary. They had to take x-rays and CT to make sure there was no spinal damage or anything like that. But he didn't come out of that state. He was really confused. He was laying down. He was confused and not talking normally. He couldn't answer all of the usual questions they ask about, do you know where you are and all that kind of thing. And they took him off for some tests and he just declined rapidly. He ended up in ICU that night. He had a sepsis, which I had no idea what a sepsis was until that day.
Well, I don't either. So what's a sepsis?
Yeah, well, so he had an infection, which is what caused his seizure. We found out later.
Is that like afterwards, but not before?
Later. Yeah. So he had a urinary infection or a bladder infection, a urinary infection it was, but it was that bad because of the AHUS and the treatment that he receives for it. The treatment helps protect the kidney so that it stays healthy enough, but it does damage the immune system. It slows the immune system down, so the immune system basically can't fight back infection. And so this infection got so bad. So a sepsis is basically a poisoning of the blood. And so it's all through the system and it can kill you in 12 hours.
Wow.
So that's what I found out the first day I was there. So that was when reality hit. And I was sitting there in a complete panic because, what was going to happen? Was he going to be here tomorrow? And at the same time, the kids are so young that they were saying, but we're not going to Broken Hill. Why aren't we going to Broken Hill? We can still go. Dad's in hospital. Can we still go? It was sort of, they get it, but at the same time, they're still kids. They don't.
So and this was what, Christmas Day by then?
No, this was still the 24th. So he had that second.
Okay, Christmas Eve.
23rd, sorry, the Saturday before. It was the 23rd. Christmas was the Monday, so this was the Saturday. So this was all still that first day. And then Christmas Eve, go back. So he'd been intubated by then. So he had all these tubes and stuff, right, going down his throat, and he was being fed by machines and, whatever, had all the different medications and antibiotics and this and that and whatever else going on through him. And then he started showing slight signs of improvement. Because his blood pressure was dangerously low. I don't know what the numbers were. The numbers don't mean anything to me. They give me numbers and I just say, is that high, low or normal? That's all I need to know.
Yeah.
And
what does it mean?
Yeah. And so blood pressure was dangerously low, which is why they'd intubated him. So they needed the machines to breathe for him basically so that he could recover. Mm-hmm. And then Christmas Day, the boys, we were all still here. The boys wanted to see him. So we went to the hospital in the morning to see him. And he was still intubated at that point, but he was responding to voices. They don't know when people are, out of it, they don't know whether they can hear you, whether they understand, whether they even know that you're there. Yeah. They say some people come out of it remembering bits and pieces, but they can't put the picture together to make a full story. It's like a vivid dream kind of thing. But some people don't remember a single thing and some people can recall everything. He doesn't remember anything from when he was in there, but he was responding. So when the kids left, because we were going to my sister's house for lunch that day. So we went and saw him in hospital in the morning. Then we left and the boys said, goodbye to us. They said, see you to him as we were leaving. And he moved his hand. It looked like a twitch, or we weren't sure whether he was trying to wave, but it looked like it was an acknowledgement of their voice. Mm-hmm. So then we went home to my sister's house for lunch, and as soon as we got there, she poured me a glass of wine. I had 2 sips out of it, and then I got a phone call from the hospital saying he's been extubated, he's breathing on his own, he's still not awake completely, but he's responding to voices and this and that. And they said, you don't have to drop everything and run, but come when you can. So I didn't even finish that glass of wine. I was gutted, and it was a good glass of wine. And then I went,
get back to it.
I told him I wanted to lose weight, but not like that. So So drove back into the hospital and spent the rest of the day in there, and he still wasn't with it, but it was, you do get a bit of relief. So talking about what you were talking about before, when people face stuff like this and they either go into the poor me mentality or they throw themselves into something else to do something about it. And I think you do, regardless of which way you go, you do fall into the poor me thought process at some point. You do, I hate this disease, I hate this, why us, why does this keep happening, this isn't fair. Or you do go through all that stuff and you do fall apart. And I think it's a healthy process. You have to let yourself fall apart. So we're not robots, we're humans, we all have emotion. But at the same time, you need to find a way to overcome that, because life does have to go on. We've got 2 kids who are relying on us for everything. And, Jerry still holds down a full-time job when he's not in hospital.
That's pretty impressive in itself. So
he came out of hospital with this stint here, actually. He was extubated Christmas Day, which was the Monday. Wednesday, he was on the ward. And then New Year's Eve, he came home from hospital, and his birthday is New Year's Day. So he got to celebrate his 42nd birthday at home, not in hospital, which was nice.
That's good, yes.
And then the 2nd of January, he went back to work. So it possibly
Sounds
because
like
he didn't have any leave left, possibly because he just needed to get back to normal. But, yeah. So since then, though, he'd had a couple of years of feeling rotten. Since then, he's actually come out of it this side feeling better than he has. He's still suffering some of the normal symptoms, fatigue, that kind of thing. But he's come out of it this side feeling better than he has in the last couple of years, because they've been able to pinpoint some other issues and treat them, which has been awesome.
So the good thing has come out of that. So I'm curious about the sorts of things that you do to keep yourself your head above water, because I go through life and sometimes I feel like I'm sinking, and then I look at the sort of stuff that you're dealing with and I've got no reason
there's always somebody worse off. There's always someone worse off.
We could always quite easily go, I just want to just curl up in bed and just stay there because life gets too hard. But and then you keep bouncing back, and you keep giving back to the community. I just think that there's some stuff that you do that you could share with other people that might help them if they're even if they're not in a similar situation. If you just feel like life's shat on you for whatever reason.
And we all do. And like you said before, sometimes you think, why am I feeling like this? There's someone else going through something worse off. But that doesn't matter. What you're going through is your reality. It doesn't matter if someone else is going through something that you perceive to be worse than what you are. It's your reality, so it doesn't matter. I was in denial at first that I needed any help, because I did go into robot mode, I think, because I had to get the kids sorted and then had to make sure that Jerry went to all of his appointments and he was remembering to take these medications and that and whatever, and you just go through this process. But then I got to a point where I did fall apart. And he was diagnosed in January 2016, and I think it was in November I finally admitted I needed help. And I went and saw a counsellor for the first time ever. Didn't know what to expect, walked in there, and I had a couple of appointments with her, and it was one of the best things I did. It's not the only thing I did, but it was my first step, and it did give me the tools to sort of keep my head above water, so that when I do feel like I'm going down there, you know what to do. And we all know what to do anyway. It's just having someone remind you that you've got the tools. You've got the tools within yourself to help yourself. Often we need someone else to tell us that, or to remind us that they're already there. They're not actually teaching us anything new. And that was actually one of the things the counsellor told me. So I had a couple of appointments with her, and that was great. And then, but I think I tried a couple of different things. I did the counselling in November, and then a few months later, I was feeling like I was going a little backwards again, and I went and saw, I think you've interviewed Paula Dutch before on here.
Yeah, she's got her own program on My Time TV. So
she does. So I saw Paula and had a healing with her, which was completely cathartic is the way I'll describe it. And then it's just doing other stuff. I need to keep myself busy, especially when things are done. Like I said, Jerry's feeling great now, so I can sit here now and talk about it like there's no tomorrow and there's no issue, because right now there's not. But when he's sick, And when he's in hospital or he's not at work because he just feels like crap or, you know, or whatever, or when we were going through, as you know, last year and the end of the year before, we were going through a period where we didn't know if he'd have access to the life-saving treatment this year.
Yeah, that was pretty scary for you, I know, yeah.
So for those who don't know, the treatment he's on is on the PBS. It is on the PBS, but only for certain periods of time, and you have to reapply. And if it's not approved, it comes in at around about $500,000 a year per patient. So it's not something you can fund yourself. So we've been fighting for it to be a decision between doctor and patient to come off the treatment. And then if you have a relapse, to be able to just go straight back on it. But the process to have to apply and wait for the approval and all that kind of thing is quite stressful. And because he was diagnosed January, that period for us comes up around Christmas. So the lead up to Christmas is always, we just don't want it. December's just a month that I just want to not happen. But we were lucky. So his treatment's been approved for the next 12 months. So that's fine. We at least don't have to worry about that till the end of this year again. But when we're going through all of that, stress of that is when you do feel, you do need to fall apart. You do need to break down. You do need to sue. We received the approval, and then after he ended up in hospital and all this other stuff was going on. So it just felt like we were feeling a bit of relief, and then all of a sudden that was taken away from us because something else was happening.
Yeah.
But so at the beginning of 2016, after he was diagnosed, and then we were put under the care of his nephrologist, we felt, I don't know, you know, there are doctors and there are doctors. We felt that for the first time, because he was diagnosed at Ashford, but for renal, you have to go to Flinders or Royal Adelaide Hospital. So they brought a doctor from Royal Adelaide Hospital to see us at Ashford, but then we had to see him at the RA once he was discharged. And for the first time, once we met him for the first time, we felt that somebody was actually speaking to us in English. He didn't speak from a textbook. It wasn't just using all this medical jargon that, you know, unless you live in the medical world, you don't know what they mean. You don't know what they're talking about. When you're involved in it long enough, you do know some of the terms. You do get to know what some of this stuff means. But when it's all new to you, you've got no idea. So he spoke to us more like, you know, he was a normal person talking to another normal person rather than a doctor speaking to a patient.
I was going to say that. So he spoke to you like you were actually humans and not a patient, not just another patient. And that's rare indeed. So
and I've met other patients in circles, not all through the renal unit, but just in different circles and different business events and that kind of thing. I've met patients and patients' wives and that kind of thing. They all say the same thing. So, you know, gives everybody that special treatment. So I felt that we were just talking about wanting to do something. I needed to put my energy into something positive so I don't sit home and think, okay, what's going to happen tomorrow? What's going to happen next week? You know, because the future is unknown. And back then, I don't think about this so much now, but at the time, the statistics at the beginning were sticking in our head, and the statistics say that it was 60% of patients die within the first 3 years of diagnosis.
Oh, that would be.
And they're the statistics that stick. And when you're thinking if he doesn't get access to treatment, he's going to become one of these statistics. And, you know, that's the kind of stuff that sticks in your head at the beginning. But I don't think about that so much now. And it's because of the support and care we do get at the renal unit. It's not just his doctor, it's other doctors. We've seen other doctors on different admissions and things as well. And it's just the support you do get is amazing. The nursing staff at the renal unit are different kind of people as well in a good way. I don't mean different as in,
not dodgy different.
not dodgy different. So wanted to put that focus into, I wanted to organise a fundraising event. I thought we'll do something to give back. Wanted to do something to give back to the people who were helping us, and didn't know what I wanted to do. I just knew that I wanted to do something to raise awareness for the disease, given how rare it is. But also to, give back to the people who are helping keep him alive. So his nephrologist is part of a research group, and they're called Kidney Transplant and Diabetes Research Australia, or KTDRA, and they come under the umbrella. They're an affiliate of the Hospital Research Foundation. So 100% of funds donated to them go straight into research as well, so that don't get chewed up administratively, which was an attractive thing for me to say, okay, so if we give them the money, it is going to go where people would expect it to go. I think a lot of people tend to be a little hesitant when it comes to donating to charities these days, because a lot of them are getting, negative in the media. They're getting negative feedback about where the money's, how much of it's actually going to its intended purpose.
And it has got a bit of a bad rap, I think.
Yeah. So I thought that was important for me to know, that the money is going where we want it to go. As patients, we want it to go to places that's going to help families like ours. So we thought we'll do something to raise awareness, and then something to raise money and make a difference somewhere else as well, because people weren't going to give the money to us, let's face it. So it needed to go somewhere worthy. And so didn't know what we were going to do. And somehow it went from let's have we were thinking just get a comedy show. It was one of the ideas thrown around to start with. It went from that to let's have a ball. And so I'm not sure whether the switch flipped, because there's a bit of a difference between a little comedy event where you might have 50, 100 people attend to a ball, but that's where it ended up. And so got my committee together. Jerry's doctor is on my committee as well. And last year I had Sam Boardman on there as well, and there was Frank Agostinelli, and then there were lots of other people helping in the background as well. Leanne Bennett, Rosa Ventura, whole heap of other people, my sister doing all sorts of stuff for us as well. And this year I've said this before, but I'll say it again. Thank you for joining me on my committee, Adaire.
It's almost like a natural progression, isn't it?
Well, it was. We were just chatting, for those who don't know, we were just chatting as we do all day, almost every day. And Adaire kept throwing these ideas at me that I just hadn't considered before. And I thought, well, it was stupid not to have her on my committee. Let's just ask her if she's got time. And she probably doesn't, but she accepted. So we had a ball last year, and we had a ball at the ball, preparing for the ball.
Let's have a ball.
So that was in October, and we raised just under $50,000 at that event for Kidney Transplant and Diabetes Research Australia. The target was 100,000, but I'd never been to a ball before, let alone organised one. So I had no idea what to expect as far as the kinds of things people donate, that kind of stuff. So we just under 50,000 we raised. I would like to double it this year and get 100,000 or as close to it as possible for this year. So we've got an event coming up, which I'm starting to get a little nervous about. Got an event coming up on the 10th of February. It's only 10 days away. It's a cocktail party. So the reason we put this together is, well, actually, I wasn't thinking of doing a second event. We've got another ball coming up on the 3rd of November, but we thought we'll keep this front of mind. And I happen to be the restaurant that we're having it at, I tend to go there for coffee a fair bit. And I was speaking to the owner, and he asked me how the ball went. So this was only a couple of days after the event. I told him how it all went and what we raised and whatever. And he said, why don't you have something here? So we're just chatting. And before I knew it, before I'd finished my coffee, we had an event booked in. So before I even had time to think about it. So they're
the best one, aren't they, really?
Well, it is. And I think the beauty of it, not everybody can afford, $150 or $200 or whatever for a ticket to attend a gala event. So this is a cocktail event. It's $50 for a ticket, and that includes food. There will be raffles, silent auction, door prize on the night, drinks over the bar. We've got a DJ there. He will be taking requests. He'll play whatever you want. And
I don't know. I was just going to say, I don't know if you can see, but I've got a little sign there saying, get your tickets above.
I can see it down below. Yep.
Get your tickets above. Look up or press the link above. That will get you your tickets.
So the funds for this will all go towards, at the end, our target for the end of the year. So we're hoping to raise $100,000 by the end of this year for a KTDRA. And so I thought this is just another little thing to help raise some money, keep the awareness at front of mind.
Going. Yeah.
And then, just something smaller and fun to have in the lead up to.
Might end up doing a comedy show as well. But we've got some kids.
Who knows?
We got some kids that we could put on stage. They're hilarious.
Well, I've got a 12-year-old who rides the unicycle, but we've had a few.
Does he juggle at the same time?
No, but he's got 10 days to practice.
All right, he's on. All right, so we're out of time. So I've got another call I've got to jump on in a few minutes. So we're going to wind it up. But thank you for sharing your story. And I think we'll do this again, because I think I really want to go in a little bit more around how and what you do. Is your story is pretty amazing, and how what's come out of that has been some really, really good stuff. And you just keep so buoyant all the time, and I sort of got to know you pretty well over the last 12 or 18 months, and absolutely have amazing respect for your approach to life and what you do. And it's an honour for me to be able to be invited on the committee and to be able to help you do that. And I really hope that I can come up to expectations and meet the standards. You've set the bar pretty bloody high, but I think that there's women out there and families out there, or men as well, who are in similar positions with loved ones that have chronic conditions that are debilitating for the whole family. And I think your outlook, your help, your support, just maybe some ideas around what to do and how to approach life might be helpful. So we'll talk some more about this.
You just need to find a way to surround yourself with positivity, because then you keep attracting that.
Yeah. All right. That's beautiful. On that note, we'll leave it, and I'll talk to you later. Thank you, everybody. Thanks, Theonie. Bye for now. Bye.